Hi, everybody. How fun is this that we are back at my desk? I think all the scabs and blisters and scars are done, and I'm able to talk better and breathe better. So I'm excited to be sitting here with you today. And an extra special thing is today is my Sabbath, and I always love it when you and I get to spend time together on my Sabbath. So my heart is just overjoyed with being able to do this with you today. So let's pray. Father, I love you so much, and I thank you for the days that you set aside for us to just be in your presence. Thank you for letting that be today and to get to share that with my friends and family over the computer. Father, we are so excited to learn what you have to say in your word about who we are. Father, give us the give us the excitement to want to embrace today's I am statement. Amen. I don't know if you realized it or not, but we are on the stretch home to finishing this year together. It was supposed to be from from June 1st to June 1st. But instead of ending on the last day of April, I am going to extend it a couple weeks into June because I had taken so much time off recently from being so sick. So I'm just going to tap in, I think just 2 weeks into June so that it's kind of fair, and I kind of made up some of the things that I missed. So as I have been studying for these next couple months worth of videos, I am so excited. It's like, I've mentioned earlier in the year of, we have this coming and we have this coming and this coming, but now they're all here. So just the joy of knowing that we are studying together. All right, well, let's go over today's I am statement before I am so excited I can't teach. Today's I am statement is I am an empowered hero. Okay, now that may not sound like I am accurately talking about what is in the Bible, but I'm telling you, I am an empowered hero is not a stretch. It is actually one of the most accurate titles that I could do for today's I am statement. So we are going to cover the most amazing things that God says about what we are capable of. That is going to blow your mind. And not only does he tell us this, but he gives us examples of this. So please go to Facebook under Jot and Tittle and get your worksheet for today, because there's no way that we are going to be able to cover all of these verses. So let's get moving right away. We're going to go to Psalms 18 as our place to start. And we're going to be hopping around quite a bit in the Old and New Testament. So I'll try to keep it even so you're able to follow. Psalms 18, and we are going to look at verse 29. It's not typical that you know me well enough now to know that I don't appreciate when people just take one verse out. The only reason that I am highlighting this verse for the video is because we don't have time to put it in its context. But in your worksheet, you're going to read the verses around it, because this entire chapter is a song that David is singing in regards to this amazing victory that him and the nation of Israel just did. So all the verses surrounding this are just beautiful, but we're going to look right now at verse 29. For by God, I can run upon a troop, and by my God, I can leap over a wall. Now, I want you to think about this. In the first part of the verse 29, it says, I can run upon a troop. That word run can also mean I can crush a troop. But whether it's run or crush, it's the same craziness in the statement. Who in their right mind would say out loud, I can crush an entire troop, or I can run and catch up with an entire group, or overrun an entire group of warriors? A troop is not just, a parade. They're talking about an armed force, an enemy. And it says, and by my God, I can leap over a wall. What in the world is this talking about? Could David really be telling us something, or is he exaggerating? Because exaggeration is one of the beautiful ways to write songs or to write poems, to give it a feel, to give it a sense of depth. But in this case, David is being super honest with us. And, we can look at this and dismiss it. But today we're just going to, for just a minute, let ourselves go to a place where we can think about the imaginary or the so-called unthinkable things. Could it really be? We had talked before that if you are going to believe in the Bible, you have to take it all. You either believe it all or you really can't believe any of it because it comes as a package. So this is one of those things that you're like, oh, this is right up there with Jonah being swallowed by a fish. This is right up there. Can I really believe that happened? Can I really believe that David is celebrating a miraculous, unbelievable display of God's supernatural power through him? My answer to that is yes. But I don't want you to answer until you have gone through this work. Okay, so we're going to switch over and we are going to look. We're going to look at a couple places, okay, and see how they fit in this. Let's switch over to, let's go to Isaiah for a minute, okay? Let's go to Isaiah for just a minute. We're going to go to Isaiah 54. And we are going to look at verse 17. Now again, it's just one verse, but we're going to pull it together when you get to go and read the whole thing in context. But for right now, we're going to look at this one verse. This whole entire chapter is amazing. But this is one of those crazy verses again. Like what David wrote, could this sentence really honestly be true? Is being supernaturally empowered part of who God made us to be? Does he really say that I am empowered supernaturally to do crazy supernatural things? Here's another really simple verse. This is found in Isaiah, and this is God speaking first person through the mouth of Isaiah. So we're going to just drop down to verse 17. It is probably a verse that you have heard over and over. It's one of my go-to verses. I love, love, love this verse, especially when I am feeling overwhelmed and I have found myself in a spot of kind of forgetting all that God says about who I am. I go to this verse. Ready? Verse 17. God says, no weapon, none. No weapon, not any weapon that is formed against you will prosper. Okay. Guys, this is amazing. No weapon that is formed against you shall prosper. Prosper in this sense means succeed. So the devil can throw out all he has. He can throw everything at you. But the supernatural of God cannot be penetrated. Nothing that the devil gives can win over God. So we know that about God. That's very clearly to comprehend and understand as a Christ follower. Yes, God is it and the devil pales in comparison. But we forget that God says that part of who he is, he gives to us and empowers us. Doesn't it seem a little bit more confident to know, like David said, and like God said through Isaiah, that there is something supernaturally powerful about us that breaks the weapons that are in the enemy's hands, that allows us to pursue and to do things and overcome in the most unlikely situations. I haven't talked to you very much about our daughter. We have one daughter. I talk about my girls, and those are all daughter-in-laws or godchildren. But I have one daughter, and we adopted her much later in her life. She was already almost completely grown. But Tamisha has lived a very hard life, and something amazing happened yesterday. After all these years, she lives in a facility. She's extremely overweight, and she has terrible heart and lung problems, so she's hooked up to a machine. She's been in Kentucky for a really long time. And to get to see each other is almost impossible because, number one, the germs. I can't go into her facility, and she can't, obviously, come to me. So last time we saw each other was a year ago. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm ever going to see her again. So we occasionally will text and stuff like that. But it's hard to talk on the phone because she's on a machine, so it's not always easy to hear her. But yesterday, guess what? My daughter was moved to a facility in Toledo, Ohio. We have been praying about that for years. God, if you can move her closer to us so that we can minister to her and love her, that'd be great. Nobody has ever been able to figure out how to get it to happen. And she is here in Toledo at a facility. And guess what I got to do yesterday? I got to go stand outside of her window. I can't go in the building. She can't see me in person because, the condition of both of our health. And I stood at the window and I had a conversation with my daughter. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is that in and of itself is the miracle, but that's not the miracle I'm telling you about. My daughter, when I say she's overweight, she's very overweight. She has weighed over 650 pounds for the majority of her life. And losing weight is very difficult. And so I saw her and I'm like, Mish, are you losing? And she said, yeah, Ma, I'm accidentally losing weight. And it turns out that since the last time I've seen her, she's lost almost 100 pounds. I looked at her and I'm like, Tamisha, what are you doing? She's like, nothing, it was accidental. She didn't even know that she was trying to lose the weight, where for years she's been trying. You see, the reason that I mentioned that is because that may sound silly to you, but to me, that is one of these, I can climb a wall and I can run over a troop. My bedridden, on a breathing tube daughter has lost 100 pounds. Which has caused her to be able to start the weaning process off of the machine, and they're going to start standing her up. All on an accident? No way. No way. This is a real life today's story about this craziness that David and Isaiah are speaking about. That God is so big, he can do these crazy, supernatural empowering of us to accomplish tasks and battles that we never ever dreamed that we could face, let alone win. It's not just about the Bible stories. It's about today with you and with me and with Tamisha. God has it in his word. He tells us that we are supernaturally empowered. All right, I'm getting excited. Now let's keep going. We're going to flip over, and here's where I want us to go this time. We're going to look at three scriptures in a row. So first go to 1 Corinthians. Yes, 1 Corinthians. And you got to go just a little bit. And we're going to look at these three together because they fit together. But oh my word, this is like crazy amazing. Okay. So we're going to start with 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and we're going to look at verses 24 through 27. Okay, here we go. We're not going to talk about them until we read them all. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one of them receives the prize? Run in such a way that you might win. I've talked to you about our son, Maurice, and what an amazing runner he is. And he was funny. He would enter, like community races in different places, depending on what the prize was. And he was such a good runner that he would say, "Oh, that prize is a new pair of running shoes from Dave's running shop. I'm going to enter that race," because he knew he could win. And so he would only enter the races where the prize was so good, he couldn't wait to get the prize. And you know what? That kid won like crazy. He won so many prizes that he was like, "Yes, I really want that prize." That's what this reminds me of. Run in such a way that you might win the race. And everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive perishable wealth, but we do it for an imperishable wealth. Ronald, can you let Susu out for me? Thank you. Therefore, I run in such a way as not without aim. I box in such a way as not beating the air, but I buffet my body and make it my slave, lest possibly after I have preached to others, I myself should be disqualified. Now, Paul is really talking about being a spiritual athlete. He is telling us the kind of mindset that we should have as Christ followers. We should enter into this journey with Christ with the intention that we are going to win. We are going to finish this race, and the prize at the end of this race, eternity with him, is so worth it that he says, look at all these people around. He's speaking to the people in Corinth. He's saying, look at the stadiums, look at the coliseums, look at all these places in this town that are set up for athletes to win. But are you setting yourself up as a Christ follower to win? A boxer will spend a year boxing before he might compete. I think about the Olympic people who spend years and years and years and years training and disciplining. And that's what Paul's saying. He's saying, hey guys, if you're willing to do this in your physical body, what about becoming a spiritual athlete and allowing God to be your trainer and allowing God to be that source that you draw from? All right, let's look at the next one. 2 Timothy. Let's look at 2 Timothy 2:5. Again, and Paul is writing this. We're looking at 2:5. Here we are. And also, if anyone competes as an athlete, he does not win the prize unless he competes according to the rules. I want you to think about that. Paul has already talked about, I'm sorry, I have something's on the thing. There we go. Paul has already talked about, this idea of being a supernatural or a spiritual athlete. But here he throws in a new statement and he says, if you are going to be this Christian athlete, this Christian who pursues, who races in this world to get to the finish line of heaven, he says, you gotta play by the rules. There's no shortcuts. There's none to heaven. Sometimes it would seem so much easier if we could just go from point A to point B in a straight line. But if you've been a Christian for any length of time, you will notice that life doesn't work that way. There are walls and obstacles, speed bumps, rules, lane changes, curves, mountains, rivers. Our path journeys around and through a lot of different things. And so Paul is reminding, yes, God sees you as a supernatural hero, as an empowered athlete. But it only works if you run the race by the rules. I remember one time in one of those races my son Moise was doing it. Actually, I chuckle at it now. I was there and it was a significantly longer race, and it was not on a track. It was through a community, and it was a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal. The prizes were good, and the path was marked. But my son had ended up being so far ahead that he had nobody to follow. And at that time, he had a horrible sense of direction. And he found himself completely off of the trail. He could not find the markings. So he was just trying to find his way back into the race by going all over to try to catch up with somebody. And then he saw some people and he was like, oh, they're running, so they must be on the right course. He ended up winning that race, but not really, because nobody had any idea what route he took. But it was the funniest thing, because even on that marked course, Mo was just so into running that he forgot to make some of the turns. And that just reminds me of what Paul's saying. He's like, you're running fast. You're doing such a good job of leaping over the buildings and catching up with the troops. But make sure you don't lose track of the map of where you're going. So it's all about who you're going for, what you're going to win, why you're in the race, but it is also about where. It's about the map. All right, let's go to Hebrew real quick. So we're looking in Hebrews, and we are going to be in chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. And again, this fits into Paul's writing. These three have all been Paul talking, but Hebrews is this is really funny. I love the fact that God records things that we may look at and say, what's that there for? Okay, verses 1 and 2. Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and protector of our faith. For the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Now that may seem odd in how it flows, but what I want you to notice is, once again, we are given this illustration of this supernatural ability, either to be an athlete or a hero. It's all coming from a divine supernatural place. And we've learned, why we do this, where we do this, what we do it for. But this one shows us who did it first. The who of this idea of being an empowered, supernatural hero, athlete, was modeled by Jesus Christ himself. You see, it talks about that there's such a great of witnesses, all of heaven, and really the earth as well. Hey, are our audience. And that should be enough to spur us on. Knowing that we are being watched is a good reason. But then these verses go on to say, now let me tell you about a man who was disciplined, trained, and really had to rely on endurance. Let me tell you about Jesus and how he relied on supernatural strength to allow him to finish the course, to finish the battle that was set before him. What a beautiful picture of what this looks like. Oh my goodness. Jesus fulfilled this identity and showed us how to do it. All right, we have so much more to cover, but I know that we don't have time. So I'm just going to go to, I'm going to go to 2 Samuel, and I just want to go there because I want to just spend a couple minutes looking at some of these things. 2 Samuel chapter 22, and we're going to look at a couple verses, and they're very similar to the one that we first covered in Psalms 18, and that's why I'm going here. So look in 2 Samuel chapter 22, and we are going to pick up at verse 30, and then we're going to read a couple other verses. So let's look at verse 30. For by God, I can run upon a troop. By my God, I can leap over a wall. As you can see, this is identical to what we read in Psalms 18. This is David speaking, and it's recorded in 2 Samuel 22. But I want you to go down, and I want you to see a couple of other verses in here, and then we'll talk about them for a minute. Let's go to from 35 to 36. Ready? He, meaning God, trains my hand for battle. Trains my hands for battle, so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. He has also given me the shield of his salvation, and he helps make me great. Are you getting the picture? Now let's hop down to verse 40. For you have girded me with strength for battle. You have subdued under me those who rose up against me. Are you seeing? This is like, he is telling us a story that seems to be written right out of a comic book, but it's not. And he is using words, Paul used a lot about the athlete. David uses a lot about the warrior, but both are the same in the fact that both of those endeavors require training and equipping and endurance and stamina and continued commitment. So I love this part. We can't leave out, when we're doing I am an empowered hero, we can't leave out the word battle. Because you see, we're not just a hero for nothing. We're not just an athlete for nothing. There is a purpose. And that purpose is to win. And sometimes in order to win, you have to defeat the others. In a race, you want to beat the other person so you can win. Well, that person we want to beat is the devil. In battle, you want to completely annihilate the enemy so that you can win the war. And that enemy is Satan. So the Bible is telling us not only does God say that we are an empowered hero and warrior, but he makes us ready to face the battle. I think you know this about my husband. He loves martial arts, and he has studied the majority of his life as a martial artist. But one of the things that's frustrating for him is he has no way now to do anything about it. He used to do shows, he used to do tournaments. He even did the firefighter and police Olympics. He's done that. But there's really no place where he can actually do what he does best in martial arts. So he is still a studier and an occasional practicer, but he doesn't have any arena in which to be a strong, amazing martial artist. So he has all of this ability, but no place to use it. And that is something as a Christian we never want to be. We don't ever want to be in that place where we have all of this skill and equipping and weapons and endurance and not practice it. The Bible tells us, you are going to get plenty of time. You are going to get opportunity after opportunity to use the supernatural power that God will endow on you when you face battles. So as we're going to end here, but I'm so excited for you to do your worksheet, because from here, we are going to look at biblical examples. We are going to look at a man who outran a chariot, about a boy who killed somebody far bigger than him in war. We're going to talk about a man who walked and sang and was able to tear down a wall. All of these crazy things that we learned about leaping a wall and running through a troop, they're in there. People have done that. And of course, we cannot forget the passage we read, that Jesus, he too was an empowered hero. So I don't know about you, but I love this idea of God promising us and telling us and asking us to really settle in to this identity that we are called by him to be an empowered hero. I'll see you guys tomorrow.